I request Mr. Vikram Mittal, our tea guru from Mittal Teas, to join us on the stage, please. Mr. Ankur Chawla, who's founder and CEO of Responsible Whatr. And Mr. Himanshu Bhatt, General Manager, Marketing, Food Services, India. Sorry, sir, would be moderating the session.
I request all of you to come to the front. If you have Chef Gill, could you please come and, Chef Gill, we request you to come. Okay, after the selfie, after the... Chef Gill, I know I'm surprising you, but I would love it if you say a few words to kick off our session on F&B. Aye, please. Okay, then I'll ask you to speak after this week, okay? Fine, thank you. So we are so honored to have you. He was there in our earlier session also. So the subject, of course, is something which everyone has been talking about ever since I think the second COVID wave hit everyone, Actually, the first COVID wave when there was a lockdown. And they all were talking about how does one cut costs, food and beverage costs, and, sort of survive. First, it was a question of survival. Well, then people realized if we can cut costs and, increase our profits, let's go ahead and do it. And in today's market, when restaurants are packed, when hotels are charging ridiculously high rates, I think everyone wants to cut costs to maximize, to get back all the money they lost during COVID, So that is a big challenge before us. So we have Himanshu Bhatt from Food Service India. He will be talking about both the issue of balancing costs, but he'll also touch upon digital and brand marketing, which will come to him later. We have got Ankur Chawla, though now he's a waterman, but given his long experience in hotels, I think he has a lot to offer both on food and beverage, because earlier he used to talk about water of another kind, water of life, as they used to call it in Scotland. Yeah, so he will be talking about the water of life. But then we have our own great beverage, that is tea. And we have no one better than Mr. Vikram Mittal to talk about it. I think the name Mittal and tea are synonymous to anyone who knows anything about tea, So we are very honored to have you, sir. Interestingly, he's an engineer by training. He studied textile engineering, and now he's in the business of tea. He's the third generation, and his daughter is the fourth generation in the business. So Ankur, I always start with you because you have the most to say and very interesting things. So tell me, what sort of, in terms of F&B, in the whole F&B business, costs became suddenly very important. Everyone, there was a time when people used to boast about, I imported that, or I've got this sommelier from France who's serving you wine and all that. What has changed in the last 2 years?
I think a lot has changed for sure. Pre-COVID, as you mentioned, I think the good thing was that the top line at that point of time was very different, because of which the bottom line was not getting as much attention. But I think post-COVID, what has happened is I really feel this, and when I say it, that now if I go and meet hoteliers, when I speak with and it's a hard fact, suddenly with due respect, suddenly the purchase managers, finance guys have become the top authority or the final authority. And that is, rightly so, because suddenly the owner wants to control the cost and he wants to make the profitability going, because I think they've realized that over the period of time, survival is the most important thing. And now this started happening right after COVID. because it was a matter of survival. But I think this was a culture that sort of came through, which will take some time to go back. And with due respect, now you see even going
But
to
is it a good culture, bad culture? Like,
I think any change has, pros and cons to it. But now the issue with that is that there are a lot of times that we see that the quality of the product or the quality of the offering in a stature of hotel that one is really going down. Because when you talk only about the commercials, then the quality aspect and the entire experience aspect goes for a toss. I remember back in the days, even I have had fights with my, if we used to even say that if a beverage manager is not fighting with a finance guy, that means one of them is not doing their job. So even we used to fight for getting good wines. Even we used to fight for making sure the inventories are always up and running, and some really fancy stuff is there in order to sell. And with due respect, if you just look at the Excel, you will see instead of calling for 2 bottles of this fancy wine, it's better you call at least 7-8 cases of vodka, which will sell better in the banquet. But again, it is all about the offerings overall. So it has changed 100%.
so no Petrus. But
Exactly.
vodka,
I mean, gone are the days. There were times when you used to boast, and next morning you'll get to know which hotel has sold which bottle of Petrus, which bottle of Margot. But nowadays you don't see that as much.
no one talks about Margot anymore, Rothschild or
Exactly, right. So that's definitely a big challenge, I feel.
Yeah.
But I mean, the good thing on the other side is that number of bottles have increased when it comes to selling in India, but the quality is obviously not as good. Yeah.
So, Mr. Mittal, coming to tea, and this is one aspect I really haven't understood, that hotels and restaurants were not really promoting tea or talking about tea till quite recently, how do you think that the times have changed? Is the hospitality business or the HoReCa sector like sort of now conscious about tea and selecting the right teas and presenting the right teas to people?
Well, I do think that tea has been on the priority of some of the top hotels for quite some time. The only question was how it needed the execution. So whether they had to buy more expensive teas, or did they need to spend more on the equipment, or simply train the staff better. So I feel that when it comes to the present times, whether it's COVID, pre-COVID, or post-COVID, the tea industry has got some sort of an impetus because it has come to be associated with good health. I personally feel that the number of persons ordering green tea in a hotel or expecting their room to be stocked with some green and herbal teas is definitely on the rise. So the tea industry as such probably has gained slightly from this COVID. Regarding the promotion of teas, I think as we get more aware, as there's more information about the quality of teas available, about the range of teas available within India, and how the top hotels or the international brands, they feel that if there is a tea available within India, then definitely it needs to be promoted because it's an Indian product. So it's like promoting the destination or promoting the chain if they are promoting that kind of a product.
In fact, like I see a lot of hotels, I don't want to run down, a brand coming from a neighboring country, say Dilma or Twinings, now we would rather like to see our own brands and our own, we've got so much variety now. Like if you see the Tea Board website, there's so many now, they're promoting regional geographical indications. I was talking about that. Are hotels getting into that business? Because to attract, not everyone wants to have a vodka. They want to maybe have a nice cup of tea at the end of a meal. Is that being promoted?
I think there is a slight disconnect between the, like Ankur rightly mentioned, the purchase manager along with the food and beverage guy about the variety of teas that are available and how he can actually improve his tea menu or give a very good choice to the consumers. So there is definitely a gap there, and maybe it's not such a big priority to be having all the GITs in the hotel at the same time, as long as he can sell some teas to the hotel. So to answer your question, yes, I think more needs to be done. We probably could have a campaign. I always visualized a sort of a common information portal for all the hotels. What the IHE is doing, I think it could be done through a portal where you just provide all the information about products and how it influences customer choices. So I think you're right, there is definitely a lot to be done over there.
So, Himanshu, explain a bit about what Food Service India does. I've of course seen your website, but for the benefit of the people, you do a lot of menu planning, and is that part of it, and kitchen consultancy? When you talk about food costs, these are the two most important components. So how do you organize that?
Yeah, sure. So, so just to explain you, what do? We are probably one of the largest food and beverage solution provider in the country and our products are specifically made for HoReCa, QSR, and catering. What do we do is that our products comes in various forms and formats. We have got a range of marinades, coatings, kebab mixes, biryani premixes, improvers, gravies, sauces. Then there are various syrups which can be utilized to make mocktails and cocktails. Then there are pasta solutions. So there are a variety of products which we manufacture for most of the big restaurants, I would say, or hotels or QSR chains which are available in India. And menu planning and menu development is one of the services which we offer to our customers. So what happens that most of the entrepreneurs which are coming right now are not from culinary background. They want to sell something, but they don't know how to plan their menu. So do I need to have a menu with 400 items, 40 items or 4 items? So how do we generate? So all those kind of things which we develop with them.
What is the secret sauce for the menu? I mean, what is the kind of menu that works?
So what I've seen, different formats work on different set of menus. If you are a QSR, right, having 10 items is more than sufficient. Having 15 items will create a chaos. Having 20 items you won't be able to serve to anyone, right? So this is how it works. In a restaurant, I would say 20 is more than enough, seriously. In a hotel, room service maybe 10, but in a buffet, yeah, whatever. This is the client what you want to have. But gone are the days where people used to have those 10-page, 20-page menus, और जब आप पूछो तो 20% item, 50% item is not available. So that is what I think what we work on, and depending on what kind of churn rates you want to have, basis that we help our customers design a menu.
Do restaurants, I asked this earlier also, do restaurants have a means of finding out what is selling? I mean, is there a, because you're also into digital and brand marketing, is there a way where the POS sort of, disaggregates the data and tells you, okay, at the end of the day, this is the dish that has sold the most, this doesn't sell at all,
Okay, so right now I don't think so that this much of smartness has come into picture in India, specifically hotels. Okay, if you want to understand this kind of information, that is probably available with the aggregators right now, not even with the restaurants.
Yeah, that is the problem,
Yes.
Because aggregators have all the information.
Yes, not the hotels or restaurants. Now, other thing which is happening in this space is that what we really need to understand, the entire demand of HoReCa right now is being driven by the consumers. Okay, and consumers today are well read, well aware, and they know. So even if nobody has visited abroad, but looking at YouTube, they know that what is being sold there, what they eat there, and that's the kind of thing they really demand. And what we see is that a lot of stuff is going towards fusion. A lot of stuff is going towards fusion, and I think that is how restaurants understand that what the trend is coming up, why people are asking those kind of things. And so, for example, what we are seeing, suddenly a demand for Korean and Oriental is increasing in India, and that is not happening only in food, but same is happening on content. So Netflix, if you see today, mostly people are watching South Korean series in India. So somehow this trend is coming up, and that is where everybody wants to capitalize.
So, Ankur.
Uh, just quickly to add on with regards to what you asked. So back in college days also we've been taught there's something known as menu engineering, wherein on one side is the number of portions sold and on the other side is the profitability. And what you usually or ideally supposed to do is every month end you're supposed to take a product mix report out, which is just as easy as just clicking a button on the POS system, which is already there in the thing, and just plot them. So that by the end of 3 months or 6 months, you get to know, and every time you're changing the menu, this is something that is supposedly very much in the theory, but somehow once you come to the hotel,
Practice,
restaurant,
I don't think it happens.
no, in some of the places it happens, particularly when you're re-engineering the menu or you're re-changing the menu and you're trying to see, what's happening there. And we've done a few projects wherein the problem statement was that we, as an owner, I feel that the costing is too much. Now suddenly, open-endedly saying that costing is too much, increase the rate of the entire menu by 20%, that doesn't work. Now that's when you get in the details and you do this exercise and you get to know, a lot more than what you thought.
Yeah, in fact, it's sort of, when I see some of the menus today, and I go as a customer, I know what I'm going to eat, so if I go to a particular restaurant, I'll only order those dishes. Now that may be a function of my age, because I'm not set in my ways.
No, in fact, we have had a very good discussion day before yesterday with somebody in the trade itself, wherein back in the days there were restaurants and there were signature dishes. Nowadays there are restaurants and there is an ambience or a vibe attached to it rather than getting food. So if you go to let's say a wasabi, you will have that black cod, you will have that whitefish carpaccio and stuff. But nowadays I think it's more about everything else but just the food.
Yeah, and that is how, of course, I guess the millennial customer or maybe
Absolutely.
the younger than millennial customer will look at it. Yeah, Gen Z customer would look at it, but there is a big segment of the population, is also a spending segment, which is crying out for menu re-engineering, not in terms of cost, but in terms of quality, and that is a very big challenge that comes up, Himanshu, there is like we have a noted chef in front of us. You talk about pre-made marinades and gravies and all. Do you think it sort of kills the initiatives of chefs? What are chefs there for if you have to make all the gravies and marinades?
Yeah, so I would like to explain it, sir, now. See, industries are changing. So if I say, would a fine dining restaurant buy my products? No. But if there is a brand who is looking to expand 200 outlets in India, can they make everything from scratch? No. So it's all about, if you need scalability, you will need standardization. You can't put scale with customization and everything being on scale and from scratch. And that's where we come into picture. So people who are looking at scale and standardization, those are where we serve our customers, right? So the other thing which I would like to touch upon on the cost and the
Someone
price.
like a Chayos or a Fasos and all.
Yes.
I'm just giving examples. The big brands, the big boys.
Yeah. So people who are in QSR, who are having, let's say, 300 outlets, 50 outlets, 100 outlets, those are the guys who buy our product. And that is where we really help chefs to deliver. So
you have a team of chefs which does all this, okay?
Yes.
And where is the back end,
So we have got our R&D lab in Mumbai and also in Delhi. Then we have got our factories in Cochin, Baramati and Saswad. So this is how we
So
work.
is it a Mumbai-based company?
This is a Mumbai-based company. So on the cost front also, I would just like to touch upon what chef has to do with these products. Now, what we also seen, there are traditional chefs and then there are chefs who wants to make everything as authentic as possible. And then there are chefs who wants to scale, okay? So they are also creative. Now what happens in the kitchen, if a chef's time goes into a lot of preparation work and things like that, the time to think creatively, time to think on presentation, time to think on menu engineering also reduces. So what we are saying is that we are not making any chef redundant. But what we are doing is that the non-value added work, we are removing from the chef's checklist. So now if I'm making a gravy, which is let's say a makhani gravy, so you go to every hotel, every restaurant, base of a makhani gravy will be prepared, like everybody prepares the same way. So I make that gravy base. So now on that, what kind of top notes has to be driven? What is the flavor has to be driven? That is still a chef has to work on. So we work on basis. We don't work on finished products as such.
Okay, right. So, Mr. Mittal, coming to you, coming back to tea, you know. So, in this new sort of, when we're talking about menu engineering, how do you think tea can be popularized through the Horeca segment? How can tea be integrated into the offerings of the Horeca segment?
I think the biggest advantage with tea is that it acts like a cleanser. It acts like a digestive. So to some of my customers who are opening QSR or something above that, I tell them, you just serve a small cup of this tea after a single course free of charge. He said, what? So when I tell them that this probably costs, the leaf cost is probably around 1 rupee 30 paise, so they are a little interested. Okay, how do you do that? So I said, and what is the purpose? I said, A, you earn goodwill. This restaurant is very, you know, customer friendly and they have good service. So that's the first reaction. India में कुछ free मिलता है तो अच्छा लगता है सबको, चाहे कोई भी हो. Then second thing is that if he has eaten a lot and if he has that half cup of green tea or a digestive mint white tea, he suddenly feels like ordering something more. So that is one very easy and a quick way of popularizing teas, where the cost is kind of minimum and the benefit that you get by probably the customer adding some food after that tea increases. And if you serve a nice little kawa to him after the meal while he's waiting for the bill, then he is enormously happy. Then he just goes and says, I'm going to come back.
Yeah,
And he
like
probably
for
does.
instance, you know, why should tea be served only for Chinese meals, you know? You know, they make a big production out of the fact that Chinese tea is being served. I think they can serve Indian tea with Chinese food and Indian tea with Indian food also, you know?
So I think we need to differentiate between what we consider Chinese teas and Indian teas. So for all these years, the Indian tea was the milk tea, the tea with a lot of milk. That is Indian tea. And Chinese tea was a very pale water. So now things are changing. Whereas in India, so many farms whom I work with, they produce some excellent green teas, which of course will be served in a format in which the teas are served in China. So they are teas without additives, just the tea leaf steeped and served. So that if you are doing that, you are automatically promoting Indian teas. The beginning was made in China, the Chinese culture was there, maybe it was more popular like 30 years ago, it was only like the Chinese restaurant in Taj Mansingh which was serving a green tea, whereas the other areas served always tea with milk. So now A, that has to change. And B, whenever we look at our range of teas that we have in India, it's not only just the green teas, it's a variety of green teas and the high grown teas which are also a substitute to the green teas. So we are saying that India has not only the green teas which China and Japan have, but we have something more complex, something with flavor and almost as good as digestive and cleansing properties. So I think in tea, combining tea with food is the easiest thing, is the simplest thing and also the most logical thing to do.
Great, thank you. So we are sort of winding down unless you have any last thoughts, you know. So Chef Gill, may I invite you to say some words to help us conclude this session? Chef Gill. Thank you, Ankur. He's always the gallant young man, you know.
Thank you very much, Suresh. Very interesting topic and very trendy. It's trendy and it's a topic
Little closer to him, yeah.
struggling for many, many years also, but not finding the right solution. But I think this will go on, but one day definitely there will be a good solution for all these things. And the tea, I was discussing with him just before the day what the problem is the tea. And somewhere, you know, the people have such habits of tea. when they get into the hotel, they have a different demand, different expectation of tea, or when they go home and they take kind of very different tea. So you are not able to actually decide what is good or bad. So they see according to the place, demand, sometimes to show also that they choose these products, but they're not particular about these products. And this is more knowledge, more sharing information that will be there from time to time. And the water and the products, what Himanshu was talking about, the problem is all the gravies and which are coming. Somewhere they have some kind of flavor in it.
I think there's a problem with the mic. Can you please
Might
fix
be,
it?
might not be heavy, or but majority of them are heavy. And these flavors and all that give some doubt to the people. Now a lot of flavors, a lot of spice mixers have also come in the market, and the cloud kitchens are using them and all that. But no good chef or no good chef in a hotel or a branded restaurant may use them, may not use them, because you have a doubt in the mind. Somewhere, and also in one sentence this, I believe that the chefs believe that food is not a commodity. For you, food is a commodity. So there is a difference. For us, the food is very auspicious. It has to be pure, it has to be transparent, it has to be very ethically processed. Which, in a commodity market, it is how to reduce cost and how to make money. Food is, please don't take me wrong, I'm only saying that food in this world, and that is the reason the whole world is struggling for what to eat, what not to eat.
Yeah, in fact, that is a big challenge, quality and quantity, I mean, I think someone like Food Service India is looking at the quantity market, but yeah.
So there is, the food to be treated differently. I'm not saying the people in the business of food, I'm also in the business of food to make money. But there should be little more transparency and the more ethics has to be there. And you might be surprised in the culinary institutes. Now, in many parts of the world, there is a subject called ethics. So there is a different food for thought.
I mean, this is a lovely discussion topic.
No, there is.
Yeah.
See, we should be I think we might have little bit changed the topic or whatever. You see, as the diner is changing, as the food habits are changing, as the digestion of the food or allergens of the food is increasing every day, you have to be very ethical with the food.
Right.
Very, very ethical. You cannot say that I achieved this. There was a time, we have seen all those times, there was a time like the batter of the dosa has become thinner because little over fermentation. You add little refined flour and thick and make a dosa.
Right.
Can I do it now? No. Because the dosa might go to a person who has a gluten allergy. So time has changed. Things have changed. So I think food should be considered little differently.
Okay, so 1 minute for you. And Chef, thank you. I think you've raised something I can relate with. But, Himanshu must be having a justification for what is being done by food service. One last thought and then we'll wrap up. Thank you, Chef. Tomorrow we are going to have a serious discussion on all this, okay? Please don't forget, 2:15, we are going to talk there's going to be the chef's forum tomorrow 2:15,
2:15.
Yeah. Thank you, Chef. Thank you, and Himanshu.
Yeah. So first thing, I will take Chef now to a stall after this discussion, and
you
I'll
must take him to the food service stall.
Yes, and then I'll also make him taste the product. So what has happened over the period of time? Technology has evolved and technology has changed a lot. Okay. Yes, I do understand earlier what the kind of thing Chef is talking about, the smell and everything. This was all very old technologies. People used to make and put a lot of preservatives. So when we make our gravies, you will realize that there are no preservatives in that. Okay? So we use a technology called as retort, which was developed by NASA
Yeah.
to keep product fresh and without
In
preservatives.
space and everything.
So what happens in that, we cook the products as a chef would cook in his kitchen, right? We pack that particular product and then it goes for a retort cycle. So
Retort packing is
yes.
doing it.
So what happens, so we don't need to add any additional flavor, any additional thing, because it preserves and retain all the qualities of the products which are needed in there. So the aroma, taste, everything remains as it is in there. The other thing is on why these kind of products are needed, correct? See, as I say, consumers have changed a lot. 20 years back or 30 years back, when our parents used to work, most of them had a government job. Most of them had 9 to 5 jobs. Now look at today's consumers, they don't have time. And when they don't have time, they need quick bites, they need food on the move, and they need, and all these consumers, they like some brands. They don't like butter chicken, they like butter chicken from X place. They don't like pizza. They want pizza from Y place, correct? And when you want to become a brand, you need to have that experience getting driven at each and every outlet.
Standardization.
Correct. Yeah. So if I am in Bombay, I am eating a pizza. If I come to Delhi and I taste different pizza, my experience goes for a toss. I am not going back to that restaurant again. So I think that is what is the need. As I said earlier.
So there'll always be this battle between standardization and customization, and both have their own markets.
Yes.
So that's anyway. I think we'll have to bring the discussion to an end. A lot of interesting. Okay, one last, Mr. Mittal. Always tea is always supreme. So.
No, actually, when I was told that this is about the cost of food, so I was reminded of a very interesting incident we shared with Chef Manjeet. This was pre-opening of Grand Maratha in Mumbai, and I get a call from Chef Arun Agarwal, Mr. Manjeet's close colleague, that we have facing some problem with tea, and why don't you come by when? Come tomorrow morning, because we need to finalize some tea menu. So I hurriedly reached Grand Maratha. It was at the pre-opening stage, and gradually made my way inside the lobby, which was still under some kind of construction, and presented a list to the management. I think Chef Matthew Kropp was the guy who was kind of deciding on all the things. And he looked at my list, and in his typical Australian accent, he said, "My God, these teas are bloody expensive. I don't think we can have them in these hotels." So, and then Chef Manjeet and Arun Agarwal in that, typical style said, "Anu, ek cup mein kinni patti aani hai, wo to 10." And I said, "Yes, that's a good idea. Let me just work out." And then I calculated, "Tell me your cup size." Cup size, after calculating, I worked out the quantity of tea, and I made another column. Quantity or the price of tea used for 1 cup. And the same guy, Chef Matthew Kropp, I was friends with him for the next many years, said, "I think it's more profitable to sell tea than sell wine." So I still remember that.
that's a lovely.
Add on to one point.
Okay, this one point, and then last,
Yes.
Ankur.
So one point.
We
I think,
began with it, we'll end with it.
yeah, Mr. Mittal has pointed out a very important point, and I think I agree with Ankur when he said that purchase managers and all, and I think the challenge is they are not technically qualified to understand the product. So now what happens, they just look at what is the price of a pack or what is the price of something, and basis that they negotiate. Now I have seen it and done it multiple times. As soon as you get into a product and a portion level costing, then you actually realize you are fighting a wrong battle. You need to really work on something else to reduce down the cost, not on this particular thing.
Exactly. That is a very important point.
So concluding to that point itself, I would say whenever we're talking about food cost, we should not say food cost control, because then you start cutting off things. We should say food cost optimization, so that it can be optimized in the right way without cutting down on the quality.
I think Mr. Mittal gave an apt example
Absolutely.
for this. What I think Himanshu, you were also saying, the same story. Anyway, it was a very fruitful discussion. This is of course something we can keep again talking forever. Tomorrow we are going to have the chefs forum. So please, we're going to talk about regional cuisines tomorrow. and so it's going to be interesting. I am now looking for my partner in crime, that is Radhika. Radhika Arora, is she here? No, I don't find anyone from IHE here. So, well, in that case, I'll have to do the honors and call this to an end. Thank you very much. The next session will be the HR session. We'll have all the HR bosses talking about the biggest challenge facing the industry, which is the manpower crunch. Okay, thank you so much. The solution is Food Service India. Okay, thank you. Okay, will someone take a picture of all of us, please? You know.
Thank you all for the lovely session. I am sorry for, getting you back on stage. I'll just take 2 minutes, I promise. A small token of appreciation from Team IHE. Chef Gill, if I may request you. Chef Gill, may I request you to honor our panelists on behalf of IHE, please? Mr. Vikram Bhatt. Mr. Ankur Chawla. Mr. Mittal. Thank you so much.